Study groups for the MRCGP SCA. So today we're going to talk about why you should join a study group, what are the benefits of being in a study group if you like, but then 3 ways to make the most of your study group experience. So if you start with why you should join a study group, well, being part of a group can give you motivation, it can give you accountability, it can also give you valuable feedback from someone else who might see something different to your trainer who sees you every day and sort of has that working relationship with you. Okay, so in terms of motivation, sometimes you don't feel like practicing, preparing, studying, right? But it's like if you have a gym buddy. If you have someone that you go to the gym with and there's a set appointment, oh, we're going to meet at 7 p.m. on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Because you've got an appointment with someone, you're much more likely to turn up. It's the same way, right? It gives you a motivation. Similarly, like sometimes you don't feel like studying, you don't feel like going to a gym sometimes. Your buddy's going to give you a call or send you a message, look, I'm going now, are you heading there? You're going to get a message from your group, oh, we're about to start practicing. Are you coming online? Join the session. Okay? And so it gives you motivation to do that work when some days you don't feel like it, but it is important that you do the preparation, right? Because there's hundreds of possible cases that could come in the exam. And so, you want to get in the habit of regularly practicing and preparing with others. It can also give you accountability. That they're going to follow up on you. If you miss a session, someone in your group might send you a message, oh, we missed you, are you unwell, do you need some help, do you need some support? So motivation, accountability, but also feedback. So of course you want to get feedback from your trainer, from other experienced GPs in your practice, that's really valuable. But sometimes, because they know you and they work with you regularly, what you might find is that they might not give the perspective that an examiner would have. An examiner has no idea who you are. They've never seen you before. They don't know what you're normally like. So let's say your trainer's observing you, and sometimes maybe you mess up an explanation, but they've seen you or heard you explain things well a dozen other times with other patients. So in their head, they might think, oh yeah, I know they're good with this, and they might just not actually give you that feedback that actually that wasn't very clear, or you could say that in a better way. Whereas you can see your colleagues that don't regularly work with you, them giving you feedback, it's more like an examiner. They're just feeding back on what they've seen in that practice session, in that consultation. Do you see? So that's one of the other advantages. It can also be useful to get different people's perspectives. You might have one person in your study group who has a lot of experience in peds. And so when you're doing your case for those patients under 19, remember that's one of the case domains. I'll just remind you, these are the 12 case domains. You're going to get one each of these case types in the exam, right? Okay. So, for example, that doctor who's had lots of experience in peds, they might have really good ways of asking certain questions or explaining certain things for that pediatric case that you can learn from. Similarly, you might have another colleague who's had, maybe they've done a women's health job or done a sexual health job, a job in a GU setting, and so they might help you with that particular case, and you might be able to help them with, maybe you've done palliative care, so in terms of end of life and frailty, maybe you've got more experience there. So it's nice to have that different expertise and exposure to feedback from different styles of people, okay? So try to be in a group where there's lots of different exposure, different expertise. So 3 ways to make the most of your study group experience. So the first thing is, on a given day, have 3 of you meet each time. One of you is the doctor. You're going to have a go if you like. One of you is the simulator. They're going to be the patient or the relative of a patient, or the colleague for the colleague case. And then the other one is going to act like the examiner, so that they can actually sit and observe and take notes during the consultation and then give that feedback afterwards. All right. Now, if you meet in a group of 3, you could do a case. Remember, a case is 12 minutes, 3 minutes to read beforehand, so it's 15 minutes to even have a go. Then maybe 10 minutes to give feedback and discuss the case. You can see 25 minutes or so you could do, if you like, one case. So if you meet for an hour and a half, all 3 of you could have a go. And so, that's still a significant commitment. If you met for an hour, you might have a bit less time for feedback, or you might say, look, well, let's cut the reading time down, but you still should do 12 minutes for consultation, for the actual consultation time, to make it realistic. The second thing is that try to make sure that you commit at the beginning that you're all going to be honest and constructive in your feedback. Sometimes what happens is, if you're in a group with people and everyone's trying to not hurt anyone's feelings and trying to sort of only focus on the things that people are good at. And they just tell you the positive feedback. You can get a false sense of confidence, but also you don't improve. If you only hear the things you're good at and no one points out the things you need to change, how are you going to get better? Okay, so that's really, really important. And then the third thing is make sure that you try to practice all of the different case types. Because sometimes what happens again is that if you just let someone decide on the day, right, you pick what case you're going to do, people will often just pick things that they're already confident in or they're already good with, rather than those things they're less confident in, which arguably are the things you need to practice the most. So what you want to do is, think about some possible cases for each of the 12 case areas, and then think which of those things that I'm least confident in, I have least exposure to. Let's actively make sure I practice those, so I overcome my weaknesses. Okay? So those are 3 ways that you can really make the most out of your study group experience. Okay? 3 of you at a time, so you can get maximum practice even in a short session. Make sure that you agree at the outset you're all going to be honest but constructive, and so you're going to feedback not just the things that people have done well, it's useful to know that, but also to really have a focus on what things could you change to get even better. So you're constructive but critical. Okay? And third thing, make sure you systematically covering the different case types, and especially those areas that you're weakest in. Okay? To help you with that, we have our MRCGP case bank. So we've got a set of online cases for each one. There's a doctor's sheet with the same kind of format that you'll have in the real exam. An examiner sheet with a detailed specific mark scheme for that case, but it also covers what are the examiners looking for overall for each of the 3 domains. And then a detailed script for whoever's being the simulator for that case. What kinds of things should they say? What is the history? What are the answers to give if someone asks about these ideas, concerns, expectations, social history, risk factors, but also how to behave? What are some of the things to give out very easily, like the opening line is always consistent? What are the things only to give out if you're asked very specific questions relevant to that? Okay, so you can download a sample case. I'll pop the link down below, but there's over 50 cases. We've got some examples of every single one of the 12 case types. We're also trying to cover those cases that people might be less familiar with, less experienced with. All of the guidelines are up to date. Okay, so I'll pop the link down below, but just to remember, join a study group early, meet regularly, motivate each other, be accountable, support each other, prepare, and you will succeed.